What's the most savage thing you heard a child say to an adult? Little girl was dressed as a fast food worker for Halloween, was being given tea by her aunt for her low choice and that she needed to aim higher if she wanted to succeed. Whole thing was really demeaning and weird. Girl fired back with, "I'm only 12. What's your excuse for being poor then?" My 11-year-old sister to one of my friends. "Hey, did you know that if you were to eat a bee, you would have more brains in your stomach than in your head?" Double quote. A conversation I overheard between my father and sister. My father: "Can your little legs carry your big smart mouth?" Double quote. My sister: "Can your legs carry your big stomach?" Double quote. Your sister deserves an award. The last thing my sister said was, "Can I sit in that seat?" Why? Shut up and move. Double quote. The other day my 6-year-old daughter was sitting next to me and looked me right in the eye and said, "Why do you have a mustache?" Double quote. I'm a woman. By the way, I said something similar when I was about 3 or 4. I was in line with my grandma at the grocery store and some woman was behind us. I looked at her and then very loudly asked my grandmother multiple times, "Grandma, why does that lady have a mustache?" Over and over again. My grandma was mortified, but also it's one of her favorite stories to tell. My 8-year-old niece-in-law was talking to my brother and me. Since her aunt was dating my brother, she asked me who my girlfriend was. I said I didn't have one. She said, "Oh, some people are just supposed to be alone, I guess." Double quote. Gee, thanks. Nieces can be brutal. Mine keep asking me why I've never had a boyfriend. My 5-year-old niece told my mom to calm her tits. I was at a public safety education event for grades 5/6 representing M's. I was showing a kid some of the advanced things we do and her teacher asked, "So, would you want to be a paramedic?" Double quote. Her reply: "No. I'm going to study business. I want to be able to pay my bills." Still kinda stings. My ex was a heavy dude. He changed his shirt in front of his 4-year-old nephew, who looked at his belly confused and genuinely asked him if his stomach was his butt. Halloween was coming soon. My sister was talking to one of my 5-yo-cusings. "Hey honey, what do you think your mommy should dress like for Halloween? A princess?" The kid smiled. "She's way too ugly for a princess. Mommy should be a witch." Double quote. We kept quiet for the rest of the day. Mommy never knew. I have the same name as a Disney princess. One time, when I was working as a waitress, a little girl read my name tag and exclaimed, "Whoa, my name. Just like the princess. Except princesses are beautiful. And you definitely aren't." Double quote. Shit's brutal, man. My sister, who was 10, walked up to me yesterday, looked my dead in the eye and said, "Jesse, you're a whore." Completely out of nowhere. My sister looked at me and said, "You look like you're pregnant. But you're not." I'm a high school teacher. Once a student came up to me and said, "Ems, has anyone told you that you look nice today?" I said, "AWW. Thank you." "They haven't." She then said, "Good. I wanted to make sure no one was lying to you." And walked away. Was chilling at a wedding. The bridesmaids were sitting there with the 5-year-old flower girl. One of the bridesmaids said she wished she would be the next to get married, and the flower girl said, "No, Becky, you are too ugly to get married." I burst out laughing. My son. Asian store. About 6 years ago. "Daddy, it smells in here," me shushing him, trying to get him to shut up. He continues, "It smells worse than you." Mind you, he has no concept for inside voice. When I was around 4 or 5, we went to Canada to attend my grandfather's funeral. It was a long time coming, so my grandmother had been handling it well. We stayed up there for about 2 weeks after, since it was summer and we usually spent August up there anyways. But this time, as we were pulling out of the driveway to head back south, I leaned out the window and shouted, "Bye grandma. Love you. Don't die now." Double quote. My 7-year-old. Dad, you're going to be 40 soon. That's old. Double quote. Me. Are you going to put me into a retirement home when I turn 40? Double quote. 7 Yo. No. You'll still have to work 25 more years before you can retire. Double quote. Oof. If he's willing to do 2-digit arithmetic in his head for the sake of a burn, then chances are good it'll be a really nice retirement home. My little sister. Maybe 4 years old tops in the elevator at my grandparents' retirement home. Little old lady gets off the elevator and looks back at sis. Bye bye sweetheart. Sis. Bye bye scumbucket. Elevator door closes. Our friend's son said, "Do you know that my dad cannot satisfy my mother? His father wished to disappear at that moment. Someone in the family was pregnant, and my nieces were putting together the facts related to baby making at the time. A light bulb went off and they noted, oh, so that means so and so had sex. Then another light bulb went off and they said to their mom, oh, so that means that you and dad have had sex too." Double quote. They seemed skeptical, and when further questioned, said dad just doesn't seem like the type of person that would have sex. Double quote. My mom had my younger sister a lot older than she had me and my other siblings. There is an 18-year difference between us. My mom always talks about how old she is, usually in a joking sense when it's hard to get up from the couch. They stopped by to visit me the other day, and as my mom got up from the chair, she goes, "Ugh, I'm getting old." Dot. My sassy 8-year-old sis goes, "The only thing getting old is you saying you're old." She's too funny. Giving my 11-year-old nieces advice before they start middle school. Telling them how mean other tweens can be and that I'm there for them if they need support. One of them responds, "You must have been a real loser in middle school. Thanks." My daughter is a genius and on the spectrum. This has led to some hilarious, in hindsight, encounters. My mother-in-law was spending time with the little one to get to know her better. She was an unplanned life happens adoption and will be our only child. They were folding clothes in my Mills living room when the otherwise silent all day 3-year-old turns to her and says, "My panties are too small to fold." She held up my Mills underwear she had been folding. "I can fold your panties many times. It is because your butt is so big." My Mill said she then held her underwear up in awe and whispered, "One day I too will be gloriously fat." Double quote. Not to an adult, but still hilarious. First thing in the morning, as our 12-year-old daughter was stumbling into the living room, our 5-year-old son turned to her and deadpanned, "Kira, I don't love you. And I never have." Double quote. Our 12-year-old, who is used to our 5-year-old's bullshit, was just like, "Thanks buddy." Double quote. It was a brutal way to wake up. I was visiting a high-end resort town last month and heard a mother on the sidewalk say, "I wish I could retire here," and her son, 8ish, laughed and said, "You're never going to retire." Double quote. My sister was a nanny to 2 little girls, ages 2 and 4. She brought them over to my parents' house and I was just settling into bake in the sun in my bikini. I opened the deck door to walk outside to greet them, but the door got a little jammed. So I tried to squeeze through, but those freshmen 15 were holding me back a little. Without missing a beat, the 4-year-old turned to her little sister and said in a hushed tone, "You see, she can't get through because she's too fat." Double quote. My friend, when he was about 4, was in trouble, so he had to be in the kitchen with his mom where she could see him. He was bored and wanted to play, but she wouldn't let him, so he looked at her and said in his sweetest voice, "Mom, if you're here, who's running hell?" Still the most savage burn I've seen in a while. My parents lived in fear of what I was going to say when I was young. Probably still do. But some of my greatest hits were, "Man, you're fat," to one of their female customers. "Why are your teeth so yellow?" to our neighbor. "Your car smells like pee," to really old babysitter that in hindsight was probably wearing Depends. I was playing The Floor is Lava with my then 4-year-old niece. I pretended to start drowning in lava, reaching my hand out to her yelling, "Please help me." My niece pops her head over the edge of the couch, looks straight into my eyes and whispered, "No one is going to save you." Double quote. I drowned, died, and never played lava with her again. Standing behind a lady with her son about 5-6 years old. It was Christmas time and mother told kid to stop acting up or Santa wasn't coming this year. Kid, fuck Santa Claus. I'm sick of hearing about that son of a bitch. Double quote. IF King lost it. When I was 4-5 years old I was sitting in my stepmom's lap in the car, good ole 90s when car safety was less of a concern, and I was slapping her leg. Uncovered because of her shorts. I said, "It ripples like a pool." Dot. I did not realize until I was older why she was so offended. 5-year-old daughter looked at me and out of nowhere said, "I don't think you're fat, mum. You're just a teen." I bit chunky used her fingers for emphasis too. Cheers buddy. 3-year-old yesterday morning walked into my bedroom, pointed at me and called me a ball bag. Died laughing as it was so unexpected, but his father and I had some words. A group of adults were talking extremely loud about how stupid certain people were. And that includes young kids. One of the person's kids said, "At least I know I'm dumb." I think of that kid to this day. This one time when I was a kid, me and my family were out eating at a restaurant. Everything was fine until I noticed the table next to us. The man, a very big man, had a huge plate of mussel. And he was scarfing them down like I had rarely seen. Then this man let a serious burp come out. My whole family heard it. That's when I turned around to face the man, looking at him with huge round eyes. He said sorry about that, to which I replied, "Don't worry about it." Pig guy was around 8 years old. I don't quite remember his reaction, but my dad sometimes reminds me of this story. Kid at park, "Who's that you were talking to?" Double quote. My kid, that's my dad. Double quote. Other kiddo. He looks more like a granddad. Double quote. Ego deflates. People think my sister is my mother. Me. No, that's my grandmother. Oh. Right, me. 7 years older than me. Parent. You know you'll have to listen me for the rest of your life, child. No. I have to listen to you for the rest of your life. Heard some kid say to his parent, "They won't find your body after I'm done with you." My 6-year-old daughter was working on a science experiment, as in mixing random kitchen pantry stuff. Daughter. "Mom, come here, I need a big person." Me. "You mean an adult?" "Shit you not." She looks me up and down with this skeptical look and says, "Yay, but you'll do." My family is a f***ed up, broken mess. We use other family members as references to hurt each other. Like my grandma had dementia, so sometimes my sister will say, "You sure are acting like grandma," before she passed, or if someone is being a DCK and an argument starts, "Okay. You win, Jerry." Double quote. Well, my 10-year-old nephew picked up on this, and about 2 months ago him and I were play wrestling. As things go, I accidentally hurt him, and with a scrunched up angry face he screams, "Why are you Zuko?" Straight threw me off guard. My face lit up and we watched Avatar until my sister picked him up. Good bad day. Last week my husband, who works at a local grocery store, overheard a mother pushing her 2 kids in a cart and complaining about how heavy they were. The older child, probably around 7 years old, looks at her and says, "You're the one who decided to have 2 kids. Looks like someone spends a lot of time at his grandparents' house." When I was 22 or so, I was just out of college, living at home, and working as an aide at an elementary school. I was working with a first grader who asked me if I had kids. I said no. He asked if I had a wife. I said no. The kid looks a bit confused and says, "Then who do you live with?" I said that I live with my parents and brothers. Then the kid looks even more confused and goes, "Wait. I thought you were an adult." I know he didn't mean nothing by it, but damn. In my younger 20s I had horrible acne. I was a cashier at CVS. A customer's young daughter asked me why I had so many bug bites on my face. It took all my strength to not cry in front of that customer. My 6-year-old son. Love you mummy. His mum my wife. Love you too Ben and what about your dad? Son. Well. I like him a bit. I suppose. Me. Colon. Open bracket. When I was around 7 fire department came for my grandma after she fell. Mom was talking to firefighter about something and he had a really long neck. I just blurted out you look like an alien. The guys by the truck overheard and busted out laughing. My mom was so embarrassed and the guy just laughed as well. An old uncle was laying in the coffin at the funeral viewing and one of his buddies that knew him his whole life knew that he liked to smoke Chesterfield cigarettes, so he pulled out a fresh pack and stuck them in the uncle's shirt pocket. Then he placed a Zippo lighter in his hands that were clasped over his chest. A little kid standing nearby watching the whole thing shouted out he won't need that lighter where he's going. Double quote. My daughter was 3 yo. Okay, a bus she saw a man with crutches. Look mummy. The man is broken. I'm sorry to say I was so shocked and embarrassed all I could think to say was agree with her and giggle. Dude if you're reading this I'm so sorry. My 5-year-old and I needed to talk to our neighbor for some reason. 2 years ago, as soon as we stepped in my kid said, God it's a mess and it smells. You need to clean up after yourself. Double quote. My kid had a point though. I saw my nephew, 4, shopping with his stepmom. She says hi to me and he ignores me. I asked what his problem was and he replies I don't know you bro, only changed 1,000 of his nappies. Don't worry IA. When I was about 4 or 5 one of my aunts had a miscarriage. Hearing that she had lost her baby I went up to her and said, I was in my mom's belly too but my mom didn't lose me. She started crying. When I was like 5 my dad asked me why I always asked my mom to treat my boo-boos when he is a doctor. I said, you're not a doctor, so after a lot of arguing I said I was gonna call my grandma. My mom stepped in and confirmed my dad is a doctor, PhD, in physics. I declared, that's not a real doctor. 5 years of grad school in physics just to have your daughter say you're not a real doctor. Ooh off. I work in emotional support. I've heard it all. I usually just laugh behind their backs but I couldn't contain myself when a kid called the other teacher a CM dumpster. Like, how does a 10-year-old even know that? We were playing a game of horseshoe. Me and my nephew, 7 yo, versus my brother-in-law and my dad. My nephew was on fire, hitting dinger after dinger. We won and my brother-in-law went to shake my nephew's hand while saying congratulations. My nephew pulled his hand through his hair and said I don't shake hands with losers. My older sister made dinner the first time, she was 17 I think, and my younger brother tasted it. Looked her dead in the eye, that shit. My niece is brutal as well. We were at a restaurant and she was looking at a very fat man and she just asked very loud, is it true that if you eat too much you'll explode? Double quote.